Who would you be if you were not always in a hurry? What kind of life would you create if you slowed down enough to listen to your own thoughts, desires, and limits? To explore these questions, we must look back at a man who, long before slow living had a name, chose to step away from the rush of the world. In 1845, at the age of 27, Henry David Thoreau left behind the suffocating routine of Concord, Massachusetts, and built a simple cabin by the shores of Walden Pond with his own hands. There, he lived for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, guided by a single purpose: to discover what it truly means to live. From this experience came Walden, a book that is far more than a diary. It is a manifesto, a quiet but powerful resistance against unnecessary speed, compulsive consumption, and chronic distraction. Warnings that were already visible in the 19th century, but that today have grown to pathological levels. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, Thoreau wrote, to confront only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach. We live in an age where busyness has become a badge of honor. We boast about having no time. We answer messages with phrases like "in a rush" or "crazy life," as though being overwhelmed were proof of importance, even success. But there is a stark, often ignored truth. There is a difference between being busy and being alive, between filling time and truly inhabiting it. And it is in this abyss that many lives quietly disappear. Busyness can look like progress, like momentum, like purpose. But more often, it is only noise, a frantic rhythm designed to drown out silence, to shield us from the discomfort of facing ourselves. For many, constant activity is nothing more than a polished disguise for the absence of meaning. We run from task to task, meeting to meeting, goal to goal, as though sheer activity could justify our existence. But rarely do we pause to ask, where am I really going? Why am I doing all this? Does any of it matter? Or does it only keep me distracted from what truly matters? To be truly alive is something altogether different. It demands presence. It demands depth. It demands courage. Because presence doesn't numb. It exposes. It brings forward our discomfort, our doubts, our anxieties. But in doing so, it also unveils beauty. A beauty that only appears to those willing to slow down enough to see it. In presence, a cup of coffee on a cold morning becomes sacred. A silence shared between two people can hold more than 1,000 words. A single glance can feel like eternity. Thoreau understood this intimately. For him, a full life wasn't measured by the number of events, but by the intensity with which each moment was lived. A walk in the woods, the reflection of the sun on a still lake, the song of a bird. These were not trivialities to him. They were the very essence of existence. Not because they were grand, but because they were real. They were felt with the whole body. They were fully inhabited. It is crucial to see haste for what it truly is. A tool of distraction. A system that keeps us always busy, always doing, never being. If what you've heard here speaks to you, I invite you to subscribe and share this video. In a world that rewards speed, even small acts of spreading slowness can ripple outward and perhaps inspire others to pause, reflect, and live more consciously. The truth that few want to face is that waiting for the right time to slow down is a trap. That imagined future when everything is solved, when the schedule clears, when life finally allows us to breathe, it never comes. Slow living is not a reward for having life under control. It is a practice that begins precisely in the chaos, in the middle of unfinished tasks and imperfect days. It is not about escaping responsibilities, but about reclaiming our humanity within them. Because the logic we have inherited is toxic. Work until you collapse, run until you burn out, achieve until you forget why you began. And only then, perhaps, will you be granted permission to rest. But slow living turns this equation upside down. It reminds us that rest is not the end of the path. It is the foundation. That presence is not what we arrive at after conquering life. It is what gives life meaning in the first place. To live slowly is not to live less. It is to live differently. It is to inhabit time instead of fighting against it. And in an era where exhaustion is celebrated as effort and haste is mistaken for importance, choosing slowness is not indulgence. It is survival. If this vision resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe and share this video. Not just to support the channel, but to help spread a truth our culture desperately resists. That slowing down is not falling behind. It is finally arriving. We stop competing in races we never truly chose. We step out of the cycle of endless comparison and begin to see that our worth does not lie in what we lack against others, but in what we uncover within ourselves. Slow living shifts the axis of value from the external to the internal, from appearances to essence. It reminds us that a life is not made richer by the sheer number of things we collect, but by the depth of truth with which we inhabit it. A full life, then, is not about gathering trophies for others to admire. It is about sinking so deeply into each moment that it becomes timeless. It is about exchanging quantity for quality, speed for presence, distraction for awareness. And here lies the paradox we so often overlook. The fullness we desperately chase outside has always been within reach, quietly waiting in the present moment. Not in some distant achievement, but in the way we sip water when thirsty, in the warmth carried by a friend's laughter, in the stillness of the night sky. To live slowly is to awaken to this fullness. To live fully is not to do more, but to be more present, more whole, more human. And if this vision resonates with you, if you too feel the need to reclaim depth in a culture that worships speed, then I invite you to subscribe and share this video. Together, we can spread a reminder the world desperately needs, that a meaningful life is not measured in haste or status, but in presence and truth. We cease to feel guilty for not always producing. Slowly, we begin to understand that every human being carries within them a unique rhythm, an inner time that cannot and should not be forced to match the pace of a system that was never built for our well-being or our happiness. At its heart, slow living is not about denial, but about reconnection. Reconnection with what is essential: time, the body, silence, the other, the now. It does not promise us a life free of pain, but it does promise us a life with more truth. A life less anesthetized, less hurried, less automatic. A life in which we finally stop chasing existence and begin, at last, to inhabit it. And if you've made it this far, perhaps a part of you already knows. It is time to change the pace. Perhaps something deep inside is asking for less noise, fewer obligations, less speed, and more presence, more soul, more life. If this reflection touched something in you, leave a comment below saying it's time to slow down. I'd love to know who here is ready to step out of haste and into presence. And if this message resonates, Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. This journey does not end here. The next video is an essential step toward deepening this philosophy. So keep watching, and let's continue walking this path together.